Today's episode is brought to you by Kid Veen. Everyone has a sinister side. Discover your inner demon and satisfy your dark fantasies by joining the fast-growing gang of misfits currently wearing Kid Veen. Go to www.kidveen.com and use the code CREATIVE at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Every time one of you guys uses this code, I actually get a kickback. Affiliate links and sponsorship programs are one of the few ways to actually get a little bit of money back for content on this platform. So if you like the podcast and want to show some support, this is one of the best ways you can do it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creative Appetite. Today I'm joined by my good friend Simone. She is the owner and creator of Peachy Sundaze, which is I forgot the terminology word for that, but it is she makes custom earrings that are made out of clay, polymer clay. Yes, I got the word. I got there in the end. How are you? How's it? It's a good day today. It is a great day.
It is a beautiful day. I'm stoked, finally. Having kids and rain just doesn't work.
The rain has been intense. Like, I know we probably people are like, why are you guys talking about the weather straight away? But if you live on the Sunshine Coast, you will know that the rain has been horrendous in the last week.
It has. It's been horrid. Absolutely horrid. I've lived here all my life and I've never seen anything like it.
How does that work in terms of like your clay setting and like painting and things like that?
It's fine. It's the heat that affects it.
Like the humidity?
Yeah. So summertime. So during the winter, when it's cooler, it's a lot easier. But when it's hot and there's lots of humidity, it really affects it. It's really annoying. So I always have to have the aircon going.
How did you, like, it's such a, like this, I don't know, but wait up, just give me a second. My brain's catching up with what I'm trying to, when you say something or you start talking about it, people have this like theory that it starts popping up on your Instagram.
Yes.
And when I started like looking into your earrings and things like that, all of a sudden, all these other people that make similar style stuff, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's still a unique, like niche kind of industry to be getting into.
It is. Ever since COVID hit, it went absolutely nuts. And there is so many makers now. Like there's heaps. It's insane. But there's still enough room for everyone. Like it's not, it is oversaturated, but there's still enough room for everyone.
It's my area. Get out.
Get out. But what happened is it created like a clay shortage. So that was a little bit hard, especially when it's like your full-time gig and you need to make money and you've got no clay to make with. So that was hard, but coming out the other side of it now.
Yeah, there was a lot of like, especially through COVID, there was a lot of even building supplies and people were getting pushed back. It seemed like it must have affected everyone across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. It did. People being sick. So I suppose, with all those rules and COVID rules where people can't go to work and you've got to stay home. And so then, the factories that are making stuff can't get those things out and then the shipping and it's just like a domino effect, So hopefully we're coming out the other side.
It seems like that. It seems like, definitely still seems like there's a lot of shortage though in terms of like supplies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
When did you start this business?
I started the actual business in January 2018. I started playing around with it in, I think it was June. I was super pregnant and just about to have my third. And I started playing around with it. And then, about 6 months later, I started, making
how did you, like, what was the inspiration behind?
So I was on Instagram and bought, what else? Where else do you shop and find things? So I was on Instagram, found this business and they made it was actually beads, necklaces and bracelets. And I bought some and I had no idea about the material. And then it arrived and I was like, oh, these are super rad. I love them. And then I was actually really intrigued what they were made with. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, I should have a play. And then I just did. And it's a pretty basic story.
Super basic. I was just no, it's a great story. It's not basic because there's so much to unpack within that story. I mean, like the base of it is, you did start something and then just start playing around with it. But I'm sure there's a lot more like going into it. Like even your first designs and things like that, what were were there
They
like
were
challenges?
terrible.
Yeah, when you're like looking at these pictures on Instagram and going, I'm going to make this beautiful set of earrings, and then you make it and it looks like some little
Yeah.
blob of clay, and you're like, oh, this is actually quite
They were
hard.
so bad. I still have a box, and one of my boys got them out the other day. They're like, can we go through this? And I'm like, no, I just can't even go back there and look at them. They're just so bad.
Throw those out.
But so many people do. Like, I know people that have given it a go, and they're like, oh, it's actually so much harder than what I thought. Yeah, it's just lots of little steps involved, and yeah, I mean, just lots of practice, like anything.
Yeah, because when you look at them, they're so like they're really like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of little elements, and I guess like unpacking that. Do you just design them by yourself, or is there like a team of you now that, or
No,
you're
it's just me.
solely you? Just
It's just me.
how do you handle like how does that work in terms of like orders and things like that? Because it seems like it's doing really well. So how do you manage?
I do a release every month. So, well, it's every 4 weeks, but I'm thinking about pushing it out to every 5 weeks now. But because before, well, in the first year when I was doing it, I was literally just, putting them on the website, and then they were selling, and I just couldn't keep up with doing post every day and then still making, and then, having to be a mum and do all that stuff as well. So it was hard. So then I went to the monthly releases, which it's hard to build up in the start because you've got to really build that hype up to get people to want to buy it. But now it works really well. I literally just do it every month, and generally on a Sunday night, and yeah, people buy my stuff. I'm just lucky.
You're like sick, killing it.
Just lucky. But then for me, I can't sell if I have stuff left over. Very rarely does it go in between that month. Like I make a few sales, but it's literally all on that night because that's how, my customers know that it works. So
you you create it all and then sell it on the Sunday, and then that's usually when you have the biggest sell and everything goes.
Everything goes, yeah.
But then nothing really gets sold after that. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
if there's any random pieces left over, yeah, because I don't do ads, I don't advertise anywhere, I don't do anything apart from like just Instagram really, and obviously my email list. But so most of it sells out on the night, so I don't really have to worry about extra pieces. But yeah, so it's just like a different model for, most people have stuff open, their website's open all the time with everything, like all their products and stuff. And yeah, and they're probably doing ads and things to drive the traffic there, but I'm not doing that. So I don't get the traffic without, I suppose my email list and really smashing Instagram 1 to 2 weeks before the release.
Were you, when you were like growing up and stuff like that, because it's a unique business in terms of like it's super creative, but then it's also like a solid, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like a solid business, but it's super creative at the same time. Like there's a lot going on like to run it and keep it going. So when you were growing up, were you more inclined to do like creative side of things? Like did you mess with clay and stuff like that?
No, I'd never actually touched clay before this. I'm not artistic. I'm creative, but I'm not artistic. Like I think that there is a little bit of a difference, I love doing creative things, but I'm not super artistic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I've always been quite creative, and I love doing that stuff. Yeah, crafty stuff.
Arts and crafts.
Yeah. I love getting it out for the boys. I'm like, let's do arts and crafts. And then they do it for like 5 minutes. So it's kind of disappointing.
Do you think that, so you obviously had boys before like you started this business. Do you find that, do they want to get involved?
They love it.
Like making the earrings?
Yeah, I mean, they're only 4, 6 and 8, but they love it. They always want to come in and just play with the clay, and they make earrings, and they made them for their teachers at the end of the year and stuff like that. They love doing that sort of stuff, and it's nice to, to have them in there doing it too.
Do you think that they'll take over the family business?
No. Not at all.
So how long does it take to make like an earring from like go to woe?
That is such a great question. And I always think about it because I don't ever make just one pair. When I'm making, I will make, probably 15 to 20 at a time. So, I mean, it depends on whether it's just like a plain, like a block colour or a pattern one. Oh my gosh, so you've got to do the actual clay work where you've done the clay and then you bake it, and then it's got to be sanded and holes drilled. And then assembled and glued. Maybe one pair of earrings, if it was just one, maybe like 30 minutes, maybe.
That's pretty fast, I guess.
It is.
So what's the baking process like?
It bakes for it's different for each clay, but mine I do for about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes, yeah.
And then do you, in the earring itself, how do you hold all the pieces together, or do they, once you bake it, they kind of just stick together?
No, they don't stick together. So you've just got to do each individual component, and then it gets sanded, and then I drill holes, and then it gets attached by jump rings.
A jump ring's like?
A circle.
Yeah, right. I have no idea what a jump ring is. And I'm assuming other people don't know what a jump ring is.
Sorry, yeah, true. I'm talking everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're going to have to elaborate because
It's like a metal circle and it's got a slit in it so that you can put it through a hole and then close it like an O-ring.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And how did you, so when you were first starting, obviously you wouldn't have had any idea about any of these things as well. So
no.
did you find challenges in terms of when you first looked at it, you're like, oh, I could just do this. This would be easy
Totally.
and then you started and you're like, oh no, this is actually quite hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And back then, it sounds so long ago, but back then, there was hardly any makers around, so it was hard to try and figure out what people were doing and how they did it. So it was difficult to figure it out, but just had to do it. But now everyone's got reels and all this other stuff, and everyone's showing everyone how to do it. And I'm just like, oh, it's so much easier now if you're starting.
You're like one of those pioneers, you don't know the struggle. You don't know the struggle.
Yes. Back in my day.
Yeah. One of those grumpy businessmen. Yeah, well, back in my day, guys, you just don't know, it was hard.
I know. Oh, God. Sounds so old.
In terms of the paint and things like that, what painting paints are they, water-based paints or
acrylic paint?
Acrylic paint.
Yeah, so acrylic paint is you can use those Posca pens. I don't use them.
I don't even know what a Posca pen is.
Like a paint pen.
Oh, okay.
So you can use those to draw on it. There's so many different things that you can use with clay, anything.
You pretty much just need to describe this to me, because I'm a 5-year-old. I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I just see it on your Instagram. I'm like, these look really cool. But then I'm like, I have no idea how you would assemble one of these at all.
Well, that's what reels are for these days. Just look at people's reels and you see it all.
How do you find dealing with social media? Because you have a pretty big following, I guess, in terms of I don't know, does most of your product, is it sold around Australia or is it sold overseas as well?
I've got a big base in Australia, but also then my second biggest would be the States.
I think a lot of people, I spoke to someone else and a lot of their stuff was going to the States too.
Yeah. So I've got a good following over there, which is great. And so many beautiful people that I connect with on Instagram and chat with and buy my earrings and stuff. So yeah, but mainly here. But yeah, they've gone all over. Yeah, Finland.
Finland.
Yeah, that's probably the coolest place that I've sent them to.
Sick.
Yeah.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah.
What is so who would be the demographic that you're selling to?
I would say probably women from the ages of, I don't want to say it wrong, but generally 25, because it's everyone.
People are going to be are you calling me old?
I know. It's a broad spectrum, right? But I would say 25 to 45 would be my main, age group.
I find that what I've noticed is that a lot of, when it comes to this sort of industry or women, women seem to be more supportive of like a business, and they really want to get involved, and like they send their support and stuff like that. We're like, it's so different, like on my end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But it seems to be like this nice, wholesome. Excuse me, birds. I'm trying to have a conversation here. Chill out. Goodness gracious. Yeah, it seems to be like it's such more of a community based thing.
Yeah, it's the whole like women supporting business, women supporting women in business is a big thing. Absolutely.
And how did you find, I guess, have you had any challenges within that, like being a female and like dealing with business? Because I guess if you're selling to other females, you're not really dealing with any of the, like, I guess the male side of things.
Yeah, no, I only deal with dudes who buy for their, their partners or mums or whatever. I've never really had any dramas.
You've had a clean run.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've had not really a drama, but when I first started with other makers, because it was because it is it used to be such a small niche of people that did it, and it was very you couldn't do the same colours, you couldn't do the same shape as someone else, you couldn't do anything like that. Whereas now
everyone's
doesn't matter
doing
at
the
all.
same thing.
Yeah, doesn't matter at all, but not back in the day.
No.
So
how have you? Yeah, I guess like watching this whole, like what category would you even put these earrings into? Because it's like it is jewellery, but it's not.
But it is.
But it is.
But
is that right?
Yeah, definitely jewellery.
Okay.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
People are like, shut up, Jesse.
It's just
I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, is it jewellery? Because it's like clay.
Yeah, no, it's 100% jewellery.
For some reason in my head, like jewellery is like gold, silver.
Yeah,
like,
true. But then you've got like people that do leather and wood and resin and acrylic and all that kind of cool stuff as well. Definitely jewellery.
Now I forgot what I was trying to ask. That's awesome. So when you like start, like, because you've started before the hype of all these earrings, what do you see the progression's been like, and how do you feel like you're still relevant within the industry? Because you must have been one of the original like businesses who've started. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
To say?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm
just spitting out words.
Now words are just coming out.
Now I've got to remember your question. I can't remember the first part of what you said.
Basically what I said was like because you've watched the progression of where it's coming now.
Yes. So it's definitely changed a lot, but in a really good way. I think it's really great because people have evolved in what they do and what they used, and there's just so many different styles and genres out there. It's amazing, and you can always, like, I'm forever still learning. I'm still learning, and I don't think I'll ever stop learning. I think the moment you stop learning, then there's going to be a problem with what you're doing. But it's definitely changed over the time, and I think that's a really good thing. It's a good thing.
And like with the back of house things, like running the business, have you had any business background like going into that? Like what were you doing before you started this?
I worked in dental. I was a treatment coordinator. So I literally just took x-rays of people's mouths before they saw the dentist, and then I sat down with them afterwards to go through like their treatment plan and stuff. And I'd always done that. That's all I've ever done.
That's such a polar opposite to like what you're doing now.
I know.
It's like one's like super science based and then one is like super creative. Like.
I know. I went to uni and I started a couple of degrees, had to pay off my HECS debt for that, which is annoying considering I never got anything from it, but it wasn't for me. I'm just not academic. It's just not me. So
you're just like, nah.
Yeah. No.
When did you decide, like obviously you mentioned that you were being pregnant, so I don't know if this is a thing, but when you are pregnant, are you, because you're like not restricted, but you have a child, so then you're not obviously working on your career and stuff. So were you just like super inspired, and are you like a very driven person to like succeed?
Absolutely. I think you have to be, especially with a small business. You have to be if you want it to go anywhere, because you need that motivation to keep going. It was hard, but I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it so then I could, that was my third boy, and I didn't want to have to. It's hard going to work, being a mum, going to work, and then having to, most of the time it's the mum that you've got to sort out, like kids and stuff like that. It's hard. So having a small business, if I could get it to succeed, then I could still do it on my terms, and still have that family life as well.
Yeah. Credit to all women, or just any parent, whether you're male or female, like just because it's so like when I was growing up, you don't see it. And then when you actually, like my mum, like my parents split up when I was younger. So my mum was like predominantly the person that was looking after me.
Yeah.
And you just take it for granted until you become an adult. And like, I don't even have any kids, but like when you have friends that have kids and then like they stop hanging out with you, and then you're like, and then you really start to see the process and how much time is involved in having a child.
It's crazy.
So like, and then, they like these parents that are out there just giving it a red hot crack and then managing like a job, making sure there's enough money. That's the other thing. It's like your job, a lot of people are working in a pretty medium job where they're not making a lot of money. And then on top of that, you're feeding like 3 other kids or another child, like just another person.
Yeah.
Like it is mind boggling to me how someone can just manage all that and the stress involved in like, so I could only imagine like the stress that you must go through constantly. Obviously you have a partner as well, so I'm sure he assists.
He's awesome. He's amazing. But he works down in Brisbane, so it's hard because he leaves at 4 in the morning, gets home at about 6:15. So very long days when he's at work.
When you're at home and you're like managing all your kids.
Managing.
It is. It's like a business. Like you're managing, like you're like the boss and they're the employees, and you're like all right, let's get this sorted. Yeah. We got things to do.
Yeah.
I kind of like, because I really want to unpack this because I've never really sat down with my mum and like talked about how this all works.
Yeah.
And obviously every personality is different. Some people can manage stress a lot more than others. But how do you personally find that running, like managing your children as well as trying to manage this business? Like that must be a lot of strain. Like I could only imagine how, especially when you got other people, like customers constantly messaging, and then you're like, shit, I need to get this batch out and blah, 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 and all these things. It piles up super fast.
It absolutely does. It's hard. It's hard. And if you ask my husband, I'm probably not the best person that deals with it very well. It's generally me crying on the phone. I can't do it. I'm going to quit. It's like, you're not quitting. I'm going to go get a job. No, you're not. But I'm just lucky to have him because he's the one that just brings me back down and, helps out. If I didn't have him, it'd be a lot harder. I lean on him a lot, I think, because it's hard. It's really hard, and especially the closer it gets to a restock, when I'm rushed and having to stay up later at night to try and get things done, so then I'm tired, and it's hard, but I love it. So
you have to like set lists of like your jobs that you need to achieve. I feel like if you're a parent and you're also running a small business, you need to be like super organized.
Yeah, I love lists. I love the whole, and I follow so many of those organised people, like organisational people.
Honestly, you're like, all right, these are my 5 tips to staying organised. You're like, oh, yes, perfect. And you're out there just like.
And then I went up because I tried to do TikTok and I just can't get into it. And I ended up watching like these Asian women, they're mostly in Japan, who have these like super cool gadgets. And I was on there for like an hour just watching all these Japanese women with, so off topic, but
no, it doesn't have to be on topic. The whole point is open forum. We're not going to be just talking about your business. We'll just talk about everything.
Japanese ladies in there organising gadgets.
It sounds like like back in the 60s when those like the white picket fence wife, and she's like there just like telling her husband about the new latest gadget, and he's like, I just don't have time for this. So it sounds like now in this 21st century you're in bed and you're like, hubby, look at this, like, and he's just like, what is going on? I need this in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like women are so easily targeted when it comes to like buying useless
100%,
things.
100%.
Like
I put my hand up.
Like out of the two like genders, I feel like women are so much easier to like get to buy. Someone's probably going to shoot me for
I
just
know.
saying that. I'm not being sexist, ladies, at all. I'm just saying this is just an observation that I've made. I do not like. I feel like you have to be very careful now.
You do.
But would you agree that like I think personally like I find that
100%.
they seem to be a lot easier to target when it comes to like selling and like marketing.
Absolutely.
Then I would say on the other hand, men are so much easier to get like targeted for like gambling, sport, or like forward drive stuff, for instance. They're super easy.
That's my husband. Yeah.
They'll see like on YouTube, like everyone's easy. They're like, but like if you get this 12-volt system in your forward drive, this is like, do you know what I mean? Like they're so, and it's like women's earrings are like $60. A 12-volt system's like $1,000. So women might be easily targeted to like buy like cheap things, but men are so much easier when it comes to like, oh yeah, I'll just dump like $5,000 on my ute. You're like, do you really need that?
True.
They're like, no, I really need that. You're like, I'm sure your ute's gonna get you where you need to be without like the $20,000.
That's my husband all the time. And then I'm like, how much is it? And he'll say it. I'm like, that is so expensive. Anything that I want is generally like $100 or under. Anything he wants is generally like $500 to $1,000. It's just, it's totally different, that men, women, what they're into, I suppose, isn't it though?
And have you noticed like how people they make excuses for what they need? Like when you start questioning it, you're like, no, but I really need this because of this.
Yep.
Like it's so interesting how the brain works when you go to buy something. You'll just you start building these like this narrative of why you need it.
Yeah, but then you rationalize it, so then it's okay. That's what I do. This is why I need it. This is what it's going to be for.
You're like, I can see this sitting over there. Yeah. This ornament that I just don't need to add to my house.
Yes.
Someone said to me, which I think is so true, the bigger the space, the more room you need to fill, so the more shit you get.
Yep.
I was like, that is, and I didn't notice it until I moved into houses where I'm like, people literally, if there's an empty space, they're like, we need to fill this.
Gotta fill it.
So I'll go buy a ridiculous amount of things that I just never use. It's like when you watch people try to move house.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You got to cut down before you move.
It's a nightmare.
It is.
Anyway, now we're off track. But, so I guess like since running the business, what would be like the one key takeaway to like what, like the biggest thing that you've learned from when you first started to now?
Oh God, the biggest thing I've learned, try and outsource certain things. Like I have a bookkeeper and I have an accountant, so I don't do anything to do with numbers and any of that sort of stuff. I outsource that sort of thing just to make it easier. I tried to do it at the start and I just couldn't fit it in, and then I was making mistakes and then it would just stuff everything up. So I outsource that kind of stuff. So if you can outsource things to make your life easier, go for it. And
like, do you have a website? And did you build the website yourself?
Yeah, I did. I had no idea what I was doing, and I'm just building a second one at the moment purely just for my stockists for wholesale. And now I've got to try and remember how to do it. But I mean, it wasn't that hard. Like there's so many YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, and forums and groups and things that you can ask. So nothing these days is really that hard because the information is all out there. Hey.
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone on the pod. I've done a lot of episodes now. I'm trying to like remember these conversations. So I think this is the 23rd.
Wow.
23rd episode, I believe.
Cool.
I probably shouldn't put a number on it because then it could be like when it comes out, but I'm pretty sure it's the 23rd.
Yeah.
But I did have a conversation about like YouTube and like people utilizing YouTube to like do things. And I was like, when it comes to like building a website, Casey from Crap Design, that's who I was talking to about it. Shout out. But we were talking about like the difference between like when it comes to like technology and building a website, it's so easy. You go on YouTube, it's like step by step.
Yep.
But then when you like start watching like mechanical stuff, you're like, does this guy actually know what he's talking about? Or like, am I going to do something and then all of a sudden my vehicle's just going to die?
You just got to hope for the best. Yeah. Well, it seems to have worked for my husband. He's done a lot of stuff and it's all just YouTube videos and he does it himself. And so far it hasn't fallen apart. So
it's still solid.
Yeah.
In terms of like your drive and like working hard, has that been like, was that like something that's been ingrained in you from like your parents?
No. I don't think so.
No?
No, I mean, my dad was a hard worker. My mum was a stay-at-home mum. No, I definitely wouldn't say. No, I was not a hard worker.
You were never a hard worker?
No,
You were just just cruise.
I really was. I've always just been a super like cruisy, casual, whatever. Like just didn't care too much about stuff. And yeah, so no, I'm nothing like what I was.
So I guess so, because now you'd obviously be like super hardworking, staying up late to like get these stuff done.
Because I don't have a choice. Well, if I wanted to succeed and I want to do well, that's what I have to do. You know,
true.
like you can't just sit back and just hope that it gets done. You just got to get in and get it done.
How did you? Well, I guess going into that, then how did you find? Was there ever like a moment where you, like in your gut, when you started like creating these clay earrings, that you're like, oh, I actually really want to pursue this and put in the effort?
Right at probably it was close to starting the business when people were like, you should really do, you should start selling these. I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Like I never imagined that I'd be where I am now. I just thought it'd be something on the side, and I was obviously hoping for more. But yeah, so it was literally only, and then when people started saying that was when I was like, you know what, I can do it. I'm going to do it. And I just did it. And I did it in a got cards printed and like website done and all that kind of stuff in like a super short amount of time.
How did you find with those, like finding to like the sourcing of things and like getting cards made? Was it all like locally made, or did you have to like source it from overseas? Sourcing
it overseas and here. So a bit of both actually. But it's hard, because back in the day there wasn't back in my day in 2017.
I'll tell you now, guys. Back in the day, it
was harder to find things for what I needed specifically. So it was just a lot of research, and most of it I try to keep Australian based as much as I can and support other businesses here, but I can't do that for everything, unfortunately. So
yeah, some things you just have to outsource.
Yeah.
And with with running a business, had you ever run a business before this?
No. I mean, I've always had lots of ridiculous ideas of what I could do. I was like, I'm going to start, well, not ridiculous ideas, but just things that never came to. I was like, oh, I'm going to do nails. Like I could do a home salon of nails, and then I was going to do like spray tanning, and then all these I did these weird crafty things, but nothing ever eventuated at all. But my husband's always like, you spend so much money like trying to do something, and then just stopped. I was like, no, this isn't going to work.
I had a lot of, like, I've done a lot of projects like that where I've started and then I just didn't like persevere and stick with it.
Yeah.
And I found that it was very challenging, like mentally, to like deal with like the disappointment of not following through with my own goals.
Yeah.
And then did you kind of like for me, when I started the podcast, I had this like gut feeling, and I was like, this is exactly what you're meant to be doing. So persevering and sticking with it is it's not something that I find super challenging anymore, because I know within myself this is exactly what I want to achieve.
Yep.
But I'm so grateful for the disappointment that I faced when doing those projects, because it makes me realize, like, now if I like feel that, like I remember the feeling of that disappointment. Do you kind of have something similar as well, where you have like low days and you're like, I just don't really want to be doing this anymore, and you like reflect back on that disappointment?
Absolutely. I think that's like a driving factor for me. Thinking of all those things I wanted to do, I could have done, but I just didn't really have the motivation. So for me, it definitely, if I'm feeling that way, it will push me forwards, make me work harder, because I don't want it to fail, and I don't want this to fail of what I'm doing now. So yeah, I just got to keep going. Even on the bad days, when you want to give it all in and give up, and you can't.
Do you think that the support from your customers and stuff gives you motivation and drive to?
Hugely. I rely on that a lot, actually. probably too much. I'm super sensitive. I'm super sensitive in what people say, and especially if it's about me or something that I make. Even though I find it hard to read nice things when people are saying nice things. I actually find it really hard and awkward, and I don't really know how to respond. But it is a huge. It helps so much just to keep going, especially like the end of last year and the start of this year. I just, being truthful, like I wasn't into it. I didn't want to do it. And I could kind of see that in what I was making as well. I just didn't feel, just wasn't happy doing it. And I just kept going, and people were still like, oh, I love it. Like, it's so nice when people receive them and they're wearing them and they tell me, what they're wearing them for and sending me photos. And it's just such a big thing to make you keep going. Hey, like, okay, I can keep going. And I kind of came out of that little rut, and I feel much better.
What was like the reasoning behind like maybe moving into that rut? Did you just think it was kind of becoming a little bit stagnant and you were just kind of making the same things and you're just losing a bit of...
Absolutely. And also because there's so many people doing it now. And I don't follow many makers at all because I don't want to see what other people are doing. I don't want to accidentally copy something or do something similar. I just want to do my own thing. And I found that really hard, like the whole social media thing I find really difficult. And I think that's kind of what got me into that headspace originally.
Yeah.
And just also burnout, at the end of the year, it's so busy and you're so tired, and then you're looking at what other people are doing and you think they're going so well, and you're like, oh, and just, it's just, yeah.
Isn't it? It's so difficult when like to watch someone else, and it's so easy to make yourself look like you've been much more successful than what you actually are.
Absolutely. I find social media so deceiving. It's just, if I didn't have to be on it for my business, I would not be on it. I wouldn't be on it at all.
Yeah, it's a very scary place to be.
It really is.
Did you ever find like, I don't know if you know much about like imposter syndrome and things like that, but did you ever face anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I still don't feel like I should be doing what I'm doing. And I never feel that it's good enough. I clearly have low self-esteem or low confidence when it comes to this sort of thing. But all the time, I suffer from it all the time.
I deal with it all the time, so it's not. It's just a thing. I think it's just a part of the creative process where you're with the amount of podcasts that are out in the world right now. Yeah. It's like sometimes I feel like the things that I say and the message that I'm trying to push would seem like just not disingenuous, but like just not a genuine. Like I feel like people are just listening to it going, who is this guy? Like, and why is he like now? Like, you know what I mean? You're
yeah.
Like, but then
hard.
the flip side of that is like, if people didn't want to listen, they wouldn't be jumping on board. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because there's so many other podcasts. It's like, so obviously they're invested in what you're trying to achieve. But it's so weird how your brain manipulates you to think that you are, you're like, oh, I'm just not good enough, or oh, I should be doing this. And
I know, it's scary. Hey, if we listen to it too much, like those little voices in the head, you've really just got to try and push them out and just keep going.
Would you say that your internal monologue is like a bit crazy, or is it like a very steady?
No, crazy. Definitely crazy.
Because mine goes nuts. It just has a field day with me every day. I get to wake up and just go, all right, let's see what we're going to get today.
Yeah, I think it has to be crazy. I've got 3 boys, so I kind of, yeah.
How do you manage that, I guess, in terms of like, I don't know what your anxiety and things are like, but I've always been fascinated by, as a parent, dealing with children and boys. And like for my mental health without children, I'm like, oh, it's pretty full on. Like and I could only imagine what it must be like for parents that have kids, and like kids are unaware, like they don't understand what mental health is, so they don't understand what anxiety and things are. But it must be a massive load dealing with children as well as like running a small.
Absolutely. I get really bad anxiety, and I get bad anxiety through work and then through having kids. I never used to get anxiety before I had kids. I was super carefree, cruisy, whatever happened. But then after I had my first, I just got super anxious. I think it's just because you love them so much and you made them, and then you just like, I don't want anything to happen to you and I just want the best for you. And then it's just, it's
a lot.
It's bloody hard.
And I guess the good thing is like having a husband who probably will support you through that, which is
He's amazing. Yeah.
So shout out to your husband.
Yes. See, I am a good wife.
If he listens to this, I don't know. He might. Yeah. You better listen to this. Yeah, it's mental health is a tough one. I think the other thing is that's so interesting is that one comment from someone's talking smack about your earrings can change, like it can do so much damage. Like I don't think people understand the effects of like how powerful like words can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'm such a big advocate for that. And I keep bringing my boys, but I try and teach my boys like about being kind and saying kind things, because you never know what someone's going through. And then, you know, just one, as you said, one little thing can just change somebody's mindset just like that. It's a bit scary, isn't it?
It is very scary. Yeah, definitely. I'm actually really interested to see, I guess, in this day and age with like kids growing up and like going to school, what it looks like now. Because I remember when I was growing up, like social media was just kind of
I was going to say, did you have phones in your day?
Back in my day, guys.
Because we didn't in my day.
No, when I was growing up, I had like the Nokia 3315.
Did you have Snake?
Yeah, Snake. It was
Coolest game ever.
Greatest phone ever invented.
Absolutely.
Let's all go back to that.
I know.
I was there for the first, wow. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I was there for like the first iPhone and like, oh man, that sounds so weird. I'm only 28. I'm not that old, guys. I'm not that old, I swear. Holy crap. That sounded so weird. But you know, like when you're like growing up and like your parents are talking about stuff, you're like, shut up, old man. Yeah. Just like, I'm that person now. I'm like, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Like Cheese TV. Oh man, Cheese TV in the 90s. That's the go. That was the best.
Oh, kids don't know what they're missing out on today.
I remember like box TVs.
Yeah.
Wow, who am I?
I know, it's crazy.
This is sickening.
I know. My boy said to me the other day, back in the olden days. I was like, what? Olden days?
I'm like, huh? I'm still cool, bro. Yeah. I'm still relevant. I'm relevant.
Oh, man, they just make you feel old every day.
I wonder, but yeah, so I guess like as a parent, have you noticed what social media is doing to your kids?
Not yet, because mine are only 4, 6 and 8 and they're not allowed. I mean, they know what Facebook and Instagram is sort of because they see me on it. But obviously they don't have a phone or anything like that. I'm going to try and hold out as long as possible. But from what I've heard and seen with other people, is it scary, to be honest, super scary, I think, for young kids to have phones and be on social media and the bullying and stuff that goes on. It's just...
it'd be scary to see. It
makes me sad. Like, I hate that my boys are going to have phones. I'm just so glad that I didn't, back in school, that we didn't have phones then. So, not phones then. I mean, we had phones, but like not...
We used to have the phone that you used to like spin the dial. And the cord was attached to the phone. Like they just... It's like the only evolution they can make with that phone is like, we'll just give them like a 10-meter cord so they can walk around the house. And then all of this, oh my God, this is so weird that we're like going back. And I remember as a kid growing up when the phone that you used to take off the hook and you could walk around the house.
And that was the best when my parents got one of those at home. So you didn't have to stand in the kitchen with the cord and talk to someone when everyone was there.
Yeah, like real awkward. Yeah, I like you too.
Yeah.
Gotta go, see ya.
Yeah. So true. I'm like, you don't know how good you've got it, boys. Like you just
literally,
so easy
or like
now.
when you could like the phones would only connect, like you'd be like talking and then someone else could like pick up the other phone in the other room, like hear what you're saying.
Yes, or the internet. I don't know. I'm older
dial
than you,
up.
so
used to like get on the phone, like,
I'm on the phone. Get off the internet.
MSN.
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
Bebo. MySpace. Here we go. It's all coming back.
MySpace. Oh, so old now. Oh God.
You're like, I hate this. I hate this so much. But it is. It's so weird that, and now we're sitting here with like all this technology, like running a podcast and things like that would never have been possible unless you were going on a radio show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's cool. It's awesome that it's evolved, but I think it's scary for our kids, and just in terms of social media.
I think
not the technology.
Yeah, the scariest thing I think I've seen is when parents give their kids tablets.
Yeah.
Just to shut them up. I'm like, that is unhealthy.
I know, but being a parent, the only time my boys get iPads, they get it once a week, and it's on a Sunday afternoon, and they're allowed to have a play for an hour or two, and that is the only time.
See, I think that's healthy. But like I've been out and I've seen babies, like literally babies with it in front of them in their chair. In their chair, in their bloody stroller. Yeah. Is it a stroller?
But sometimes, like I say, you don't know what's going on.
Well,
Mum could have been up all night long and she just wants like 5 minutes peace.
I'm not saying don't give your kids tablets, parents, or I'm not saying I do not know your own individual situation. Do not rip me for this. I'm just saying what I've noticed. It looks scary from someone.
Absolutely. And I used to think that
coming from my age and like when I was a kid, I used to run out there and like dig holes and be a little menace. So this is purely speaking off my own experience. I'm not saying, I'm not telling you how to parent. Obviously, if you've been listening this far, you would know I don't know how to parent. So please don't kill me. I guess
it's such a personal thing though, isn't it? People that they want to give their kids the iPad every day. Cool, whatever works for them. What works for us is my kids go feral if they have screen time. Especially iPads, not TV so much, but iPads, they just go feral afterwards. So it's once a week, that's it. Otherwise, get outside. That's the whole reason why we moved into a larger block and, so they could be outside with trees and creek and just be little boys.
Yeah, it's a scary thought having children. I don't know if I'll ever progress to that stage of my life.
I never wanted them, ever. I was super selfish. I was like, no, I like me. I like my life. I like what I'm doing. And then I met my husband and just all went downhill from there. I mean, but like good, made me want kids. I mean,
I'm digging myself a hole now. He's like, okay. No, that's cool. It's cool. Don't worry about it. With your business in terms of like, I guess diving a little bit more into the intricate details of like how you've set it up, because you did mention that you like lists and things like that. Could you give like maybe a bit more of an insight as to how the back end of it runs from like orders and processing and like, because I'm sure there are people listening that are starting their own business that would obviously value your opinion in terms of like how you organize and that kind of thing. Does that
sort of makes sense? Yeah.
Makes sense. Like what is your your business process, I guess, in terms of like shipping and like things like that?
Well, basically I use Shopify. So that's the platform that I use for my website. So I get all my orders through Shopify, and then I love, if anyone's listening and they have Shopify and they have the app on their phone, the cha-ching sound it really is the best sound that you could have.
It's like the pokies, but better.
Yes, it is. Generally, because I do the monthly releases, so I have everything prepped before that, because it does take a long time to pack orders and things. So I get my eldest to like actually put all the boxes together, and then I've got to cut like all the tissue paper and all the stuff that I wrap the earrings in, have that all ready and ready to go. And then it's just a case of I have like a big stand where I have all the earrings on and just packing them up. And I use an app to help for shipping, because I originally, for like the first 2 years, I used to like manually enter in every single address into Australia Post and print it out, and it took like 2 hours just to do the post, like to print out labels. So now I've got an app which does it for me, so it's way easier.
Oh, that's so handy.
I know, outsourcing all those little things, So
I would definitely just handwrite them, because I would have no idea. I'd be like, oh, yes.
Yeah. So and that's also why I do monthly releases is because it makes it so much easier to organise my life and then the business side of things as well, instead of just being in a constant chaos of having to pack orders, get them out. It's a lot more structured for me doing it this way.
When you were in terms of packaging, so throughout my life, and I'm sure everyone else's life, like you just pick things up as you go. And in terms of like business, I remember like I saw something. I was watching something and they were talking about packaging and like the impact and how important it is to like have it visually, like the first thing they're going to see is the packaging. And like, so with your packaging, how did you come up with the design, and did you have to do a couple of runs of different things before you were like, yeah, this is the one I want?
Yeah, definitely. When I first started, I did my own logo on some free website, and then I got tissue paper made with this free logo that I'd used, and it was so horrendous. It was so bad. But at the time, I was like, this is so rad. It looks so great.
Oh, yes.
But it really wasn't. So then I paid someone to design like my logo and everything, and then packaging, as you said, like it's the first thing. It gets people excited when they're opening up a box to see what's inside, and it's such an important part. And I'm still trying to improve. Like I just always want to do better with everything, but with that as well. And then I also want it to be, not using plastic and things like that. So it's definitely changed over the course of the years, but I'm happy with where it is now, and I get a lot of good feedback from it. So it's good. Well, I think it's good.
Freeloaders.
I don't know.
I watched this. I think it was, they were talking about a wine bottle maybe, or a whiskey bottle, and like how it sits in the hand. And that was like my first introduction into like packaging and like bottling and like just all that kind of thing. They're like, they spoke about it for like a good 20 minutes. They're like, it has to sit, like when you grab this, you wanted to make it feel like it's light, but it has to have a bit of weight. And like there was so much involved, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that packaging is like one of the most things. Like all these like, I don't even know how you would call it. It's like micro psychological like mediums. So like when people are buying it without them even knowing, this is exactly what's going. Yep. I think I might have nailed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at you.
There we go. But yeah, it's like and then like even for like I got a friend of mine, so he's with his website with his clothing brand, which kind of must sound similar to yours, but he sends out like a code and a link, and it only is open for like 3 days, and then it closes, and then you have to wait till the next one to come open for the next drop. Yep. So is that what yours is like? It's because you said it's not open all the time. Is that right? No,
well, I close it like a week before I do a release, just so that I can get everything uploaded. And then it opens generally on a Sunday night at 7:30. It'll open and stay open for a few weeks, and then close it and redo it. You just got to build that hype in the meantime, so that people think they're going to miss it. How do you build your hype? Instagram is generally how I do it, and but then I don't know, I've just been lucky that word of mouth and things like that, and people then tag their friends in it, and if you don't jump on at 7:30 you're going to miss out, and people do miss out, so then they know that for next time, so then they come back and then they're like right on. Like I have so many people, it's really cool, like on Shopify you can see how many people are online, where they are in the world, and it's cool to see people on there at like 7 just waiting.
That's so cool.
Waiting to get on. Yeah, it is.
It must be a nice feeling, like that your work's been received.
Yeah, it's there's nothing better than people liking it and wanting to actually get on there and get it, so they don't miss out.
In terms of like your Instagram theme and like structure, how do you take your own photos and edit them and things like that?
Have you seen my photos? Yes, they're terrible. Yeah, I struggle because I don't know how to take nice photos and things. And then this whole reel thing now that you've got to do if you want to be seen, like posting reels, I find it so hard. And because I have no clue what I'm doing, I literally just wing everything and hope for the best, if I'm being honest.
I think that's the best way to do it, right? Isn't it? Just wing it and just hope for the best.
I mean, I've got no idea when it comes to photography, and it's hard because I thought about getting a photographer in, but then I change my earrings every single month. Like I do different things. So I'm like, that's a waste of money. So it's hard doing it yourself and not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, it must be like, I find even for me with this podcast, there's so much involved that I don't really know.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like marketing. Hey? Yeah, just do it. Like I just give it a go. Yeah. I'm very fortunate that because it's in the creative sector, a lot of other creatives I have on are more than willing to like give me 5 minutes of their time to have a bit of advice.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's still a continuous growth and progress.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's always going to be how it is for people in business. You always should be learning. You should never stop learning, ever, even when you think you know it all.
Where do you think your business will be in like the next 5 years? Or where would you like it to be in the next 5 years?
I would like to still be kind of doing the same thing in the same way, but just maybe on a slightly bigger scale, not too much bigger because I can't do too much more being on my own. But I would like to have other products join my business, but I'm still working on what that should be because it's hard being a handmade product, and that's why people follow me and that's what they like. So if I went to get something manufactured, I need to be very careful of what it is, where it's from, do you know what I mean? I think it could be a big fail, so I need to be really careful. I know I want to bring something else into it or make something else, but I don't know what that is yet.
In terms of like I say in terms a lot, I don't know why. Shut up, Jessica. Anyway, with your product and the longevity of it and things like breaking, does that happen often because it is clay
They shouldn't break, no. I mean, occasionally it happens. If something wasn't baked properly, they can break easily. But if everything's done properly, then it shouldn't break.
It should, so they do last.
Yeah.
If they were to break, do you just fix it for them? And
I always, no matter what it is, even if they've broken them, because they are still fragile. Like it's not something you could stand on without them breaking. So even if it was that person's fault, I always replace them. I don't know, I'm so big on customer service. So I don't even care what happened, how it happened. I will replace it, or they can choose something else off the website or whatever. I just want them to be happy and have a good experience.
Yeah, how do you manage your customer service and things like, are you constantly replying to people? And
Yes, always, because it bothers me when I see Instagram accounts and people can't be bothered to reply back. It might not be can't be bothered. I shouldn't say that. It might not be like they might not have the time. Sorry.
Straight up called them out.
But I see it so often. And then if I find a new account, and I will go through like the first, 10 photos or reels, and I'll have a look at their comments and see if they've actually commented back to anybody. Because I'm just so big on that. Like I love talking to people, and I've made not friends, but acquaintances through that I talk to, and I know a little bit about their life and stuff, purely just based on them following me and buying my earrings. And I think it's just so important.
Yeah, it's nice. Like you get to meet new people who are, and it'd be a nice experience to speak to someone who's actually invested in what you're doing and they want to see you grow. Like that would be a very rewarding experience.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Well. In saying that, this has... what am I doing? Scratch that out. Anyway, this has come to the end of the episode. No, there's two things we like to do before we get out of here. Now, one is you get a shout out a local legend who you think should come on the show and share their story.
Okay.
And number two is you get to give a piece of advice to someone who should start their project or has started their project but needs a little bit of a kick in the ass.
Okay. Local legend. A friend, Rob, who owns Nobby Underwear.
I have heard of this.
Yeah, it's amazing. He built that from the ground up. If you can get him on, do it. He's amazing. Such a great guy and so knowledgeable and just, yeah.
You're coming on.
Definitely get Rob on. And a piece of advice. Oh, God. Outsource. Don't give up. And just keep learning. Don't ever think that you need to stop learning. I don't think I've said that enough through the podcast this time. So I'm going to say it again.
And back in my day. No.
Yeah, and back in my day.
Well, this has been another amazing episode of Creative Appetite. Thank you so much, Simone, for coming on and sharing your story and sharing some laughs with me. And to the rest of you, gang, tell your grandma about it. Like, subscribe, share it, please. And hang around for the next one. Let's go. You.